Naja Typo, second topic video of season 1. I am your host, Sarah. We didn't introduce ourselves on the last one. I don't think, at this point, who needs an introduction? You guys know us well enough.
Also, I'm Jack. That's Jess. Only Sarah gets to introduce herself, I guess, but she's the leader, so it's fine.
Wow, you sound bitter.
That's because I'm bitter.
Today's topic, should never drink and record.
As with all of our topic videos, if there is any topic that you want discussed or any questions that you have that come up during this video, feel free to comment below. And otherwise, Sarah is the most knowledgeable, I think, of the current indie landscape, socially, politically, internetly. I'm more in the actual process of independent publishing sphere, whereas she's in the everyone actually exists sphere. So let's hear what she has to say about it.
As far as the state of indie publishing and why we wanted to do this, it's because, first of all, independent publishing today is still viewed as a stepstone or a step down from traditional publishing, even though there's no reason for that to be the case other than the quality of work that is being put out by indie authors. That is the only thing that holds the indie sphere back. Because we're in an era where everything is you publish yourself. There are dozens of social media platforms for everything under the sun. Images, videos, voice, you name it, there's a platform for it. And you can build an audience on your own, and you can access people. You can build a career yourself with just your own skills. And that's just something that hasn't existed before, guys. It's something that even if it was accessible to the average person, it was very, very difficult because people were geographically, they were locked into certain places. Distribution was expensive because you couldn't distribute things digitally like we do now. Those are basically no cost distribution, or, pennies out of something that you're already probably paying for because you want to access the internet. So we live in a time of unprecedented reach for the average individual. And yet indie publishing struggles to get traction. It struggles to have any sort of cred. So if you say, I am a published author, but then you say, I am an independently published author, it comes with a connotation. And why does that connotation exist? It exists because of what people are putting out. It's because what if somebody decides to step into the indie sphere tomorrow and they're like, you know what? I want to read a book from a local author who is publishing their own things. It's not even 9 times out of 10. Probably 999 times out of 1,000, they're going to get a really bad book. And after that, they're going to not go back to the indie sphere again. Because even though we're all by nature independent, that's given them a standard for what they can look forward to if they approach this work. So then I'm like, okay, I've been hearing a lot of things, though, that the indie publishing sphere is improving, that it's cool to be indie, that being independent means we're publishing the things that trad publishing just they're not gonna take the
fiscal risk.
Yeah, they're risk averse. So that's why they didn't pick up my story. And I've been hearing that for a really long time because I've been monitoring social media channels. I'm going to be independently publishing because I don't want to traditionally publish. The only thing that a traditional publication could offer me really would be a way to save time. And, earlier on, it's not going to be a big deal. And then later on, if I do well enough, hopefully I'll be able to just hire people to do certain things for me as far as the publication process. But I can handle it mostly myself. But it's one of those things, though, where that's what I'd been hearing, is that this is a sphere with great, great people. Lots of recommendations. Man, these are just the movers and the shakers. These are the people who are shaking up literature. These are the people who are defining literature for the next generation. And so I was like, all right, I want to read some of these things, and I want to I just kind of, I want to see what's going on out there. Is it really true? Are things as good as people are saying they are? And so I started buying some books that were of interest to me, and I started reading them. And it was a disaster. This is before this even started. And this was a while ago. I started buying a couple books, and it was just, I was disappointed. There wasn't a good book out there that I found, at least in that time. And I just stopped buying indie books, and I stopped participating in any of the discussions around it because I just didn't believe it anymore when people were saying indie is only being passed over because bad marketing or whatever. It's not bad marketing. It's bad books. But at the same time, I do also have a lot of hope that there are good books in this sphere. And also that if we can talk about the bad ones and why they're bad, what we can do is we can start to elevate the entire sphere, which does bring all of us up. Because if somebody comes into contact with Jack's book as their first foray into independent publishing, or they come into contact with my book whenever I finally do publish it, eventually in the future, someday, maybe, probably, they're going to come away and be like, wow, indie is a great sphere. It's wonderful. Like, this is where the stories are being told that really deserve to be told. This is stuff that I could never find right now with traditional publishing. This is just not what they're doing anymore. Like, this is where the whimsy is. This is where the creativity is. This is where things are breaking the bounds of the English language and making things go to higher heights than they've done previously. We live at a time when we have a great benefit of all the things that have come before us, and none of us are capitalizing on it. So that's kind of in a nutshell what drove me. I'm a very passionate person, I know, but it's just this frustration because the likelihood that they're going to come into contact with me first or Jack first, as opposed to any of the authors that we reviewed this season, it's very unlikely. And these are the authors. The reason why people got on my list is because they have followings. They're people who are moving books. They're selling. And yet, somebody gets one of their books, it's not going to be a good experience. And that's just tragic, to be quite honest. Anyway, that's the overview.
It's also worth noting that indie publishing does not exist in a sphere all its own. We also have traditional publishing actively putting money toward putting indie publishing down. Traditional publishing totes itself as basically the lottery of careers, where you can write one book and sell this book to us, and then you will be rich and everyone will think that you're amazing and people will talk about your stories and you'll be famous and a household name. They say, yeah, it's 1 in a million for E.L. James and it's 1 in a million for Stephen King and blah, blah, blah. But that's the dream that they want you to chase. And they want you to believe that they are the only way to do it, that all other ways are illegitimate. It's something where you're supposed to trust, hey, look at this agent. The agent is apparently good enough to pick out books for these publishing houses, and the publishing houses can pick out which books are going to end up on the shelves, and they all know so much. And in truth, agents only get paid by commission if your book sells, and the agents just get trained like anyone else and hope that the book that they pick is what sells, and constantly, commonly, pick a bunch of books that don't sell and don't ever get published, but they think they'll take a chance on it, which is their time, because again, they don't get paid unless your book sells. It is a huge boon to them if you think that you are giving up, or you are being lesser, or you are taking the easy route by going independent publishing. There's nothing wrong with independent publishing. There's nothing wrong with traditional publishing. There's nothing wrong with vanity publishing or hybrid publishing, as long as it is what suits you best. I published independently, made my own press, because I'm a control freak and I research a lot. So I know that I can do as well as a traditional publishing house, but I get to keep the proceeds. Whereas if I put $10,000 into my marketing plan, I still only get 4% of the proceeds if I'm traditionally published. It doesn't matter how much work or money I put into it. My contract is my contract. I don't like that. I think I can do better on my own. Other people don't have the time, don't have the patience, just don't care, don't want to do marketing, don't want to do whatever. And thus, traditional publishing suits them better.
Yep.
Some people are fine with the marketing, but they don't want to go out and find the editors and the putting it up on all the different platforms and getting a cover designer. They don't want to do all of that nitty-gritty in-between stuff. And thus, hybrid publishing is fine. Do what suits you best, but do it because it suits you best. Not because you failed at the thing you really want and you're taking your token. Mm-hmm. That's what makes us look worse. The moment that I knew that I wanted to independently publish was when I sent out a query and I prayed that they wouldn't respond. Because I was sending them out just in case, because like maybe there would be someone that I wanted to work with. Who knew? I didn't want to close the door until I was sure. And that moment I was sure. I did not want them to want my book.
Well, and I think that is probably the key, is understanding, just like you kind of said there, understanding why you are choosing the publication route that you are. Because I'm very similar to you in that I am also a control freak. We're just opposite ends of the control freak spectrum. My book.
I'm the fun end.
Nobody believes that.
Your book.
But
vote below as to whether or not you think I'm the fun one.
Hey. I'll give you $50 if you say I'm the fun one. I won't actually, but just vote for me.
For legal purposes, this is a joke.
Sarah directly lies to the audience. She's the fun one.
Well, yeah, I mean, sorry. The people that are the most fun a lot of times do have the most personal foibles as well. That's why they're fun.
That's fair. I don't have many foibles. If it's about foibles, she can win.
Anyway. The point is that if you are approaching indie publishing because it is some sort of consolation prize, it just seems too hard to be published the traditional way, but that's what you would really prefer, but you're just not getting any traction with your manuscript or, whatever reason. It's just too much work to keep putting it out there and you don't like the rejections and all that. That's not the reason to indie publish. You should be independently publishing because you want to actively. Because otherwise what you're doing is you're saying, I couldn't make it in traditional publishing. And so I chose this path because it was the way for me to get my subpar work out there regardless. It was a way to get past the gatekeepers. Well, the thing about gatekeepers is they're not the publishing industry. The gatekeepers are your readers, actually. And what you're doing is you're not bypassing the gatekeepers. You're wasting the gatekeepers' time. So it's very critical to not independently publish just because. Now, if you think that, like Jack and I do, that it is an avenue for you to have control of your art, that you will make your work probably better than what they'll even achieve with traditional publishing, because quality is actually a problem in traditional publishing as well. I've heard that a million times. Every single time I criticize the indie sphere of things, people are like, well, trad publishing has typos sometimes too. Yeah, I get it. I know. Everything has its own problems. But there's a vision that I'm trying to achieve with my book, and achieving that vision is the most important thing to me. When I put it into the hands of a reader, I want it to match exactly how I want it to feel with the language and the writing, which my writing style is very odd, and there's going to be some places that are very uncomfortable for a lot of readers because it breaks up the way that you read sentences normally. It's very poetic. And I mean poetic in this sense of like everything's broken, like it is broken, but it's there to convey a feeling. It's there to convey a meaning. And so I want the capability to throw out conventions of how you're supposed to format things and use certain language because I know what I'm doing and I'm trying to achieve that discomfort. But that's just not something that's going to be super well accepted in the traditional publishing sphere. And it's also one of those things where I want my own cover art. I want to make it the way that I want to make it. all these things go together to push me toward independent publishing. And then also, yes, I'm just like Jack. I'm also money grubbing. So if I'm going to do all this work regardless, because the truth is with traditional publishing, you're going to be doing most of your marketing for yourself anyway still. If I'm going to be doing all that, I want a bigger cut of the profits than they would promise me. So, all those things together push me toward independent publishing. And I've really never looked back. That's always been the path that I've been on.
And it's also fair. I'm a big proprietor for both tearing down and defending all spheres of publishing.
Proponent.
I hate and respect each of them. It is fair for traditional publishing that they turn down books based off of marketing value. Whether they think they will make money off of this, it is purely business for them. It doesn't mean the book isn't good. It doesn't mean the book isn't fun. It doesn't mean people won't like the book. Just that they don't think that they will make the around $27,000 required to publish a book by selling this book. That's it. Or they already have something in the lineup. That is fair of them. Like us saying I can hit a niche audience and hit it well isn't a great pitch for someone investing thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars into our product. That's something that we can choose to invest in and we can see if we're right. But it's not a rag on the traditional publishing industry that they don't want to take that risk. It's a terrible business model.
Well, I think though
it is.
That the point in that though is that they are taking a risk the same way you are taking a risk. And these are things too where I think it is detrimental to the sphere as a whole to wear it as a badge of honor. I'm going to be going the route of independent publishing. However, if that side of things becomes so big that it's really hard for me to manage, or there are things that I want to do that are just outside of my wheelhouse, various translations, distribution in an international market, things like that, I'm not going to say no if a publisher comes along and says, hey, we'll actually cut you a really good contract. We'll do all this for you. And basically, you're going to be paying us for our contribution of doing these pieces of work, plus a little bit on top for profit. And I would be perfectly okay with accepting something like that because it's not a problem for me to move over to this traditional publishing sphere of things because it doesn't define who I am as an author. It's not going to be a thing where I'm like, I'm an independent author and I will only ever be an independent author. If my business, which is what this is, when you're publishing, it is a business. If my business gets big enough that I need outside help, I'm going to bring in outside help. And what that will look like will obviously be advantageous to me because I will have put myself into a position where it can be. But it doesn't really matter. I'm a published author either way. And that's kind of I think the thing that people get lost in is this identity that they develop as this, like, I'm an independent author and it means all these things. It's honestly just kind of sad because you're not really treating it like a business. You're not treating it like your job. What you're treating it as is kind of more of a social club. And it's not a social club.
And that isn't helped by the also social club of traditional publishing, where a lot of people get validation. So much validation from being published, from having first an agent tell you this is good enough, and then an acquisition editor tell you this is good enough, and then to have a publishing house actually buy your book saying this is good enough. Mm-hmm. There's so much outside validation in that. There's so much of your sense of self and self-worth in them telling you that if someone else who didn't get any of those things, but also has a book out, also has that same validation, is your validation worth the same thing? And people, again, this is a natural response. It's not a right response. It's not a correct response, but it is a natural response. Don't want that dissonance, that cognitive dissonance to hit them, because if someone else has the same thing without doing any of the same steps, does yours count? Is yours still as good? Should you still get validation from yours? And facing that question, facing that cognitive dissonance hurts. It physically activates the same part of your brain as a physical pain would. And so to avoid that, you just say no and shut it down and then say that's not as good. And so people in the traditional publishing sphere put down people in the indie publishing sphere so that they don't lose their own self-worth for what they went through and the validation they gained. And that's not cool, guys. Recognize it's happening. It sucks. It shouldn't mean as much as it does. Don't gatekeep each other.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's a really big thing, is the hierarchy that people, and we kind of talked about this before in other settings. Hierarchy is kind of stupid. The only thing that I'm going to judge somebody on at the end of the day is the quality of their work. And if your work sucks, I'm not going to think very highly of you as a writer. And if your work is good, I'm going to think you're amazing, and I'm going to be really, really happy to know you. And that's kind of what it comes down to.
And to be clear, it is as a writer. That has nothing to do with who you are as a person. You can be a great person with a bad book, and you can be a shitty person with a good book. What we think of you as a writer or as an author has nothing to do with what we think of you as a person.
Yeah, I think, like I said, it's a difficult topic. And I will say, people need to get off social media. I know it's a really good tool in some ways for building a platform, but oh boy, do people just get obliterated by it. Because what it does, and this is just something that I've seen, first of all, not legitimate. People can build social networks on these platforms and then turn out really, really shitty books. It doesn't mean anything for the quality of the work. But second of all, what it does is it's giving you this constant sense of productivity and forward motion when you have not done anything. You haven't accomplished anything. Because accomplishing the thing is actually in the thing. So it's just 9 times out of 10, it's just not good. If you're going to be on social media, treat it like you would a business account if you were running that. Play the algorithm stuff, do all of that, but don't actually treat it like real stuff, because it's not. That's just kind of a warning. I've seen a lot of it. So, do you guys have any additional thoughts on independent publishing as a sphere before we close out this topic?
I'd love Jess's thoughts on the in-between, if she doesn't mind.
The in-between, like, people who kind of do like a...
Not being sure which one.
Oh, yeah. You both have described yourselves as control freaks. I am not a control freak. I'm busy in my job. So, like, if I were to finish my book in the next year, God willing, I wouldn't...
I thought you were just going to leave it at, like, God.
I wouldn't have the time or motivation to do the indie thing. And so I think that trying for traditional publishing would fit well for me. I also think that I have grown up really, respecting traditional publishing, like Tor and Del Rey, and just like knowing the names of different publishers. And so the idea of being picked up by one is really cool to me. But yeah, I wouldn't want to fall down the hole of, well, I didn't get any bites, so should I independently publish? I think if I was going to do that, it would not be for that reason alone. It would be like, all right, well, I am a lot less busy now. I have a lot more time. I can do the research. I can figure out how this would work for me, because I wouldn't want to go into it without knowing all of the work it's going to take. And I have seen from Jack's journey that it does take a lot of work. So that would be a big decision for me.
And that's awesome, because that's an account of someone that's actually taking in the pros and cons of each of these things, which is what everyone should do. Look at the sphere for what it is, not what you want it to be, and then pick what's right for you. Don't pick what you think is easiest, like uploading it to Amazon and hitting publish and ending up here.
I think it might also be worth talking about, so as a anecdotal piece of evidence of like what the common person thinks about indie publishing these days, when I was talking with my husband about the books that we've been reading and how Sarah found them on lists where they were recommended, people have been reading them, and being surprised that none of them were actually up to our standards. I was talking to him about that, and he was like, well, that shouldn't be surprising, right? If they were any good, they would have been picked up by a traditional publishing house. And there are stories like that, like Andy Weir getting picked up for The Martian. Mm-hmm. Wasn't the Aragon guy originally self-published or something?
no.
His stuff's
his
terrible
parents-
anyway, though.
The Aragon guy's parents owned a publishing house, and so it only got so big after they had published it and then made a U.S. tour for the book.
I see.
And then after they'd done the tour, it was everywhere and got big. So that's its own thing.
And also, I'm going to go on the record and say Aragon was not well written, and I didn't like it, and I didn't understand why everyone thought it was so good. And I read it when I was in my teens, and it was like, it was the worst.
I didn't like
hated
it.
I only ever read the first book.
I didn't finish the first book.
Overhyped.
I think there was some scene, I don't even remember at this point why it turned me off so much, but there was some scene where he was, I think something to do with like saddling the dragon or something, and I just was like, I don't want to read this anymore. And I just stopped.
I read the whole thing. I just could not tell you a thing about it because it was that forgettable. Like, that's how I feel about it.
But that is good anecdotal evidence. Other anecdotal evidence is that there are self-published authors who have made millions, mostly off of their platforms and off of pushing it correctly and off of publishing every 3 months. There's a whole strategy to it at this point, just if you're in it for the money and nothing else. But there are a lot of self-published authors who do really, really well, and we ignore them because they don't fit into the paradigm that our society wants to push about traditional publishers being the way to go.
Is Chuck Tingle self-published?
Who?
You don't know who Chuck Tingle is?
That sounds like a joke.
He's like the Weird Al of books.
That also sounds like a
No, you've heard of Weird Al Yankovic at least, right?
Yes.
Yes, I
Okay,
have.
well, you should look up Chuck Tingle at some point. I don't know for sure if he's self-published, but I think he might be. But I think he's one of those that puts out something new very frequently. It's not known for being like the best, but it's parodies.
Most of his works are self-published through Amazon, and apparently he is not made up.
He's not made up. And most of his stuff is parodies. Parodies of like a current event will happen and he'll write a book about it to make fun of it.
But yes, people do commonly look down upon self-publishing. A lot of times they aren't wrong. My challenge to that is that what's actually incorrect, because I was not surprised at all that these books were terrible. I think most traditionally published books are terrible too, on the record.
That's true. On the record.
The problem is how we look at awards, where we go, someone gave you a medal. Look, it's on your book. You must be good. What we don't do is look up what other books were against this award. Who was judging this award? Do we trust what the people who judged it, and do we know what criteria they were judging it on? Do we like the people who judged it and trust their judgment? Do we think that this book should have won? Look at, I don't know what any of the movie or TV show awards are, but people have lots of opinions over what they think should have won because they actually looked at it and watched it, or they know the judges and they're like, that person always chooses badly. No one does that for books. For books, they just go, look, a shiny circle must be good. That's what we need to be questioning.
And it's not a circle you can even take off the book. It's stuck on there forever, and I hate it.
Correct. That's what should be questioned. That's what should be taken into account. Is the award that this book got worth anything? Do we trust the people who gave this award? What does this award mean? That's what we say versus, it got an award. Must be good. But I digress.
Do you guys want to know a secret?
No.
I do.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell you the secret anyway. It's a great secret. Independent publishing has, we'll say, a reputation in certain segments of the population. But there are segments of the population that don't even really differentiate between the types of books. And they are just happy to get a good book. There are a lot of those, it turns out. And a lot of this back and forthy stuff that we do is bullshit. Because again, everyone loves to rank themselves and they love to rank others. So at the end of the day, the important thing is that you choose the path that is right for you and think about things a little bit differently than how everyone else is doing them. You do have to put in the work. It is going to be a lot of work. Either path you choose is going to be a lot of work. It's just you need to choose the kind of work that you're willing to do. And that's all you're making a decision about. The problem is, a lot of people choose indie because it is a path for them to put their subpar work out. And unfortunately, I would love to say we're beating that stereotype. I would say this season has proven that stereotype for me. And that's a really sad thing. So
Season 2. Season 2 is going to be better.
Season 2 is going to be better. I did promise.
And I will go against Jess and Sarah and say that this did not prove any sort of stereotype for me, because aside from the book that shall not be named, which you will know when you get to it, I look at these books and I've read traditionally published works that are just as bad. So aside from that little rabbit hole, I think story-wise, I have definitely read books that are as bad or have taken as silly of turns in traditionally published works.
Yeah.
They weren't fun to read, but if you go outside of books that were curated for you to read, that people are recommending for you, that you are coming across because, hey, this is exactly in your sphere and selling well anyway, they're traditionally published books that are that bad.
Well, and you know what? I'll actually second that, because I don't think I've read a full book until this year, since I was probably somewhere in my early 20s. I'm like in my mid-30s now, guys. It's been over a decade and I haven't read a full book other than Jack's, because it's phenomenal, and books that have come through through writing group. I was such an avid reader as a child and teenager that I literally emptied out the sections of my libraries, multiple libraries. I loved reading. But the problem is, when you're an avid reader, you become very, very sensitive to the degradations in quality that have happened over time. And less of what is coming out is good or interesting to you. And in fact, the jump from young adult fantasy specifically, because that's always been the genre that I loved the most, and that's why I write in it. The jump from young adult fantasy into adult fantasy was a non-starter for me. I read a few things and I quit the genre, even though it is my favorite. And the reason for that was because everything was the same. It was the exact same crap. The only way to make it adult is to add swearing and sex every single frickin' time.
And genealogy.
Oh, and genealogy.
For politics.
Oh, yes, of course. And I like politics.
Yes.
I like politics.
The names and names and names and names of kingdoms and kingdoms and kingdoms. That's what got me out of adult fantasy.
They forget what makes politics interesting, and that is when it impacts.
They forget what makes fantasy interesting.
Yeah. But regardless, it was one of those things. I dropped reading. I dropped reading for most of my adulthood. This has been the start of my reading again, and that's why it was so stinking disappointing to find what we've found so far. It's not because I like putting down books. It is because I am a reader at heart. I love good stories. I love good writing. And there's just not a whole lot of it out there anymore. And it's like, you can say, oh, well, like, go back to these classics, go back to this. It's been, it was published 50 years ago, but whatever. I want stuff that's being made today. Like, I want stuff that I can engage with other people with. I love fan stuff. Like, I really enjoy the Has Been Hotel series. That's been really fun, and it's really big, and it's independent, and then picked up by Amazon. But it was independent. I was with it, like, way, way, way back when, and I've been really enjoying it. I love the animation. The story, season 2, let's not start down that path. But in general, it's just been really fun. I enjoy the music. I think it's really well done on the whole, especially when you're considering the landscape today. And it's just, I want to have fun just like everybody else. And I think all of us do. Like, we just want to have a good time. We want to enjoy something. And unfortunately, we're not even able to do that because these things are just, they're so bad, guys. They're so bad.
And if any of you ever go on to read my works, then that's actually something that everything Sarah has just said really inspired me to write. Obviously, I was going to write regardless because it's my passion and I have no other interests. But I wanted that whimsy that came with middle grade fantasy, but with writing that was good enough that an adult could enjoy it. Because as an adult, going back to YA, going back to middle grade, which I can give middle grade a break because it's written for a specific reading level. But I wanted those adventures. I wanted that whimsy. I wanted that fun, magic feeling, but with writing that I could enjoy. And I wasn't finding it, and so I wrote it. And that's really part of choosing how you're going to publish, is what's most important to you. Good writing and whimsy are important to me. And that's what's going to be in each of my works. Good writing, bright, sparkly, horrific whimsy. I won't give those up for any publisher. Find what matters to you in your writing. Go from there.
Do you want to know why I write the way that I write?
No.
Too bad. It's because I was tired of people just pussing out when it got really rough. Every single time.
Yeah, they do pull back so hard. They're like, this, and I'm speaking for so many authors right now, this really bad thing happened, but don't worry, we're all right. As soon as we get a hug from our love interest. Oh, we had a nightmare though.
Uh-oh.
But now we're okay because they hugged us again.
Oh.
And then we never mention it. And I've just described a lot of books that a lot of you recognized.
But a real book you're thinking about right now. Don't worry, when I publish, it's not going to be like that. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt so bad.
It's going to hurt so good.
And we've officially gotten off topic. So, any final thoughts on the indie publishing sphere, socially or for writers, or just the way they come across as you pick them up? I think I'm good.
It's ripe for the pickings. It's really ripe for some really excellent people to stake their land in it and say this is what independent publishing is. And that's really exciting.
I don't think I have anything to add.
All right, then if you have any questions for us, any topics you would like us to go over, anything that you want us to discuss or that you were confused about, as well as your votes for who is the most fun.
It's me.
Unless, again, it's about foibles and then it's Sarah. Then please comment below. You can find my book in a link below. You can find a link to access any of our other editing segments if you want to submit something. And we look forward to hearing from you.